Good afternoon, everybody. How's everyone doing? Bruchim Aboyim. Welcome, everyone. I had a little experience today. I had some time in a good venue. I signed a contract a few weeks ago that by March 1st I was going to finish a series of, I believe, 12 or 15 classes, a master course on Hasidic Judaism for a particular online school that that I knew some of the people from there, and it's something I could make some money on, could pretty much pay my bills. Would be a great thing, and I just find myself constantly just like hitting a wall. It's like writer's block type of thing. Now, one thing is that we're not allowed to make dash cam videos, which everyone said they should find whatever help they need. And this is the time when I'm able to make videos, but they specifically said no dash cam videos. They said no and I've been thinking a lot what I want to say and how I want to approach things, and tried to sit down today, and I kept just hitting a block. I realized I have to sit down, maybe write some kind of an outline or something like that, but I just feel like that kind of writer's block, or that perfectionism, striving for perfectionism. What I think I'll do right now is discuss a little bit of what I want to talk about, just to get it out of from the koich to the poil, from the potential to the actual, and then hopefully then I can go and actually make this video separately. Don't know whether or not I'm going to upload this, because one of the parts of the contract was that I wouldn't be uploading it anywhere else, the actual course, but this is not the actual course, this is something separate. They gave me the option that I could upload it to Facebook or YouTube or whatever, and they would pay me half the price. I need the money more than I need the YouTube views, especially since my videos are not monetized at the moment, although I think 5 or 6 subscribers away from 1,300, which is nice. Getting pretty close to that threshold of remonetization, slowly but surely. I'm looking forward to that. But still, I'm probably not going to be making on YouTube anything, even though in the eyes of the ones who are organizing this, they they compare it to what you would get for teaching a college course or something, and they feel it's not that much money, and they're kind of, but for me it's a lot of money. It's even though I have a good full-time job and a decent part-time job, I'm having a hard time making ends meet. I used to get more weddings, and here and there I get weddings. It's Hashem, but not this next Sunday, but the following Sunday I have a frum chasana in New Jersey, which would be nice. I don't know. I didn't discuss with them how much they're going to pay me. We'll see what happens. So it's there's a lot going on. In any event, my plans for this series of videos, it's not for a frum school. So I'm going to be approaching things differently than if I was speaking to an Orthodox Jewish audience. Although there might be some Orthodox Jews who watch it, but how to balance that. And one thing I wanted to talk about certainly was comparative religion, which I think would be a great thing to try to build bridges as far as the Hasidic community is concerned. Because we seem so foreign, so different. But the thing is that, I encounter in my line of work as a chaplain so many different types of religions, and I'm constantly finding the similarities. And it's beautiful, and that's what we need, to learn about. And I really believe that religion, especially American religion, which I think is different than what I would call European style religion, but the American style of religion, which they can have in Europe and in other places as well, but I'm saying that American style religion has a uniqueness that's just so fantastic. There was a documentary, must be over 10 years ago, which seems like yesterday, on PBS about religion in America, that just really opened up my eyes to see, how, fantastic and different American religion is. The story that I often think about is, and I tell this story a lot, and I saw that in this documentary, was how there was a preacher, I believe was in Georgia, in colonial era, before the, probably I think the 1760s, 1750s, 1760s, thereabout. I believe he was a Baptist preacher, and he got up and he was preaching without a license, because I believe in Georgia you could only get a license as an Anglican priest, not as a Baptist preacher. Maybe I'm confusing with another colony. And different colonies had different rules about religious freedom. So if I'm not mistaken, I think Georgia was the more, loyalist British colony. If it was one of the southern colonies, might have been Georgia, might have been maybe South Carolina. I don't remember exactly where it was. Anyway, so this man was arrested for preaching without a license, and hundreds and hundreds of men and women and children gathered around the jailhouse to hear their preacher preach his Sunday morning sermon from the bars of the prison cell. Now, what's the purpose of me telling this story? And I think that's it, because it brings out what religious freedom means in America, and how it's different than in countries like, let's say, even today, Germany, England, Israel. You have these countries that have this certain collectivist ideology. That's the old-fashioned collectivist ideology. People think it's some kind of progressive ideology to have collectivism, when it's actually regressive. It's really just going back to the way things always were. And to turn it all around and to show that, no, actually, in America, it's the rugged individualist, that represents America, and not the collective. So when we look at this story, where we're told, if you preach without a license, you're going to jail. Whereas in America, and it's still like that. Like I had applied to be, just because there was an opening, and anything I would see online like that, I would always apply. And it was published pretty publicly, and it was to be the chief rabbi of Munich, Germany. A number of years ago, the position was open, and they gave me a phone interview. I had a few interviews like this on the phone, and it never went more than that. And sometimes I think, well, even if they'll give me a proba, I get a free trip to Germany, or there was one shul in Nairobi, Kenya, I remember. I also had a phone interview, and both these interviews I thought went pretty well. But it is what it is. It wasn't meant to be. But the thing that shocked me, there were two issues as far as Germany in particular, which was so different than how things are in America. And one thing was that pretty much in Germany there's no religious freedom. All religion is run by the state. And so if you're Jewish, everybody pretty much pays a tax, and it's divided to support religious institutions, and it's divided by the population percentage. So this, if let's say 2% of the population in Germany are Jewish, so then 2% of the religion tax goes to the synagogues and pays the rabbi's salary and so forth. And 2% are Muslim, they go to the Islamic, to the mosque and to pay the imam's salary. I don't know, 60% are Lutheran, and it goes to the Lutheran church, whatever it is, and the 20% are Catholic, that much goes to the Catholic Church. 5% are Russian Orthodox, that much will go to the Russian Orthodox Church, but it's all government run. It's the same way in South Africa, same way, and a lot of people argue back and forth about the positive and negative aspects of this approach. I talked to someone from South Africa about it, and he said, well, this ensures that we have authentic Judaism, that we're but it's hard to say if it's really true. And we had even already, by the times of many of our great Achronim, the whole question of separating from the organized Jewish community, as it was at the time. So, all these things are important to discuss, and, it's a lot to talk about. This isn't really what I'm planning to talk about in this course, but I think it relates to it, that this idea of religious freedom and so forth, it's very important, but also comparative religion, seeing how we're not all that different. We have a lot more in common than we have that separates us. And so, I deal with all different religions in my ministry as a chaplain. So we have the Catholic, Protestant, Muslim. We're used to hearing about these religions. And it should go without saying, although most people don't realize this, is that Jews and Muslims probably have more in common than any other religion. The manner of prayer in Islam is almost identical to the form of Jewish prayer. And the concept of prayer is very similar to, traditional Orthodox Jewish approach to prayer. Very, very similar. Our theologies are pretty much identical. We share most of the same prophets. Our approach to legal issues, how our Protestant friends, talk about legalism all the time. We don't have any issue with that. We're quite proud of our quote unquote legalistic tradition. Where did that pen go? So, and things like this that, and so much of Jewish law and Islamic law are identical. And that which is not identical is similar, to the point where I remember hearing an imam on, it was on PBS, and he said that if he is trying to understand something in Islamic law, he will often ask the rabbi, what do you do in Judaism? And he'll see that it's pretty much the same, in the way to understand what it means. It's going to be very similar. But then you have these other religions, and not as obvious, the similarities, but you find more and more similarities. So, one religion that I've been spending a lot of time encountering people and clergy of this religion is the Russian Orthodox or Eastern Orthodox churches, and particularly the OCA, the Orthodox Church of America. They have a seminary that's very close to our facility, and part of their training for their priests is to come to our facility to learn chaplaincy and to have field work in chaplaincy. And so, there's a lot of obvious, external similarities between Orthodox priests and Hasidic Jews. We have beards and wear long robes and hats and, things like that. But there's more to it, that we're called Orthodox, But, there's so many things that you don't know, which came first, the chicken or the egg. Orthodox Christians have a vigil on the night of Pentecost. Did they get that from us? Did we get it from them? Pentecost is Shavuos. How did that happen that we have these similarities there? Oh, there's Noah. And what I've generally, according to Wikipedia at least, they got it from us. The veneration of saints and the saint days and things like that, and the feasts of the saints, are going to be very similar to what we see in the Hasidic community, And that's certainly something that I'd like to talk about in this lecture series. But of course, it's going to be similar to how the Catholics approach it as well. It's not only Russian Orthodox or Greek Orthodox and so forth approach, but it's something you find with the Catholics, and so forth. For a long time, I've always liked to listen to Protestant Christian radio and hear their approaches to things, and so again, you have these issues, of the approach to Scripture and so forth, and and their eschatology about Israel and so forth, and what that means to them. So there's always a lot of things to discuss. Well, I'm going to go daven mincha now, and then we can talk a little bit more. But this is just, I don't know, pretty much what's on my mind. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment. We'll see you guys later. Take care.